Okay, I'm going to be back in a little bit. In the meantime, thank you so much. You've made me feel very welcome, and I'm sure you're going to do the same for the next act. So please welcome Paul Scoble to the stage. Thank you very much.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
I can be quite a grumpy, irritable old git. I know you're looking at me and thinking, surely not, Paul, you come across as a veritable ray of sunshine.
Yeah.
You're probably picturing me skipping across a meadow, anointing the wounds of injured woodland creatures or feeding moonbeams to my pet unicorn. But you couldn't be further from the truth. I'm half English and half Scottish, so I'm a massive fight masquerading as a human man. I hate it when the rugby's on. No matter who wins, I always end up beating myself up. My friends keep on complaining about how annoying I am. I explain to them that they have it easy. They can get away from me. I can't. No matter where I go, fuck me, there I am. I always manage to say the wrong thing at the wrong time. One of my ex-bosses once told me that he got rich from hard work. I asked him whose. Some days I only open my mouth so I can change feet. I've never been any good at relationships. I used to have multiple personality disorder, but all my other personalities left me. You know you're an objectionable person the day your own madness walks out on you. I can't be happy with a woman unless I can respect her. And I can't respect any woman with such bad taste that she's willing to go out with me. Paul, I love you. For God's sake, woman, get some kind of self-respect. You can do so much better. Sometimes I think I should go for a woman who's studying psychiatry. I'll still be a terrible boyfriend, but by God, I'll be a great case study. Don't leave, baby. I could be your doctoral thesis. I've always found it very difficult to believe in myself. Most of my life I've been racked with the constant fear that I might be mythical. It all started when I was a teenage heavy metal fan. One of my friends had a Metallica t-shirt with the slogan, "Real men wear black," on it. I remember looking down and I was wearing jeans that were blue. And I thought, well, if real men wear black, and I'm wearing blue jeans, does that mean I'm imaginary? And it's not just Lars Ulrich's existential dread-causing t-shirts that I have trouble with. I find most people and situations more irritating than a sandpaper condom. For example, I can't stand people who like rocks. I was a fan of Magma before it was cool. And I can't stand people staring at me. It was the blight of my childhood. I was constantly watched those vicious staring eyes, those horrible chubby faces. Bloody hamsters. And gerbils can fuck off as well. Those are two of my little pet hates. One of my slightly bigger pet hates is people trying to sell me something. The more someone tries to sell me something, the less I want it. Can I help you with that? No. I could probably get you a discount on that. Please leave me alone. 50% off? Didn't I just ask you to leave me alone? You can have it for free. That's it. Fuck you. I don't want it now. I'm what's the word? Idiot. That's it. I'm a fucking idiot. I know it's not their fault. I just don't like it. It's lucky that I give you the hard sell when you're food shopping or I'd starve today. I can't stand TV adverts either. There was a Puma ad that started with the line, "Calling all rebels." Calling all rebels? Oh yeah. Because there's nothing more defiant, subversive, disobedient, maverick or rebellious than doing exactly what you're told. Be a rebel by conforming to what this advert tells you to do. Conformity, it's the new rebellion. And I hate the way characters in adverts talk. There was a Nokia ad where a man explains to his partner how great the camera on his phone is by saying, because with the 45 megapixel sensor on the Nokia something or other something, we're at the heart of the action. Oh, please, Nokia. People just don't talk like that. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe advertising executives talk like that. Darling, while you're in the kitchen, can you put the kettle on? With the Russell Hobbs Boil Master, you'll have boiling water in seconds. Yes, dear. Incidentally, is there anything you particularly wanted to do this weekend? Yes, because if we book today, we can get money off on weekend city breaks with this exclusive, once-in-a-lifetime offer. Oh, for God's sake, Colin, why do you always talk in slogans? If you weren't an advertising executive, we could have had children with normal names, instead of having kids called Massive Savings and Special Offer. What sort of a man calls his own daughter Special Offer? Are you aware of the trouble Special's been having since she moved up to secondary school? Another advert that really wound me up. Yeah, keep up. Another advert that really wound me up was an advert for an online casino called 24/7 Casino, where they made a huge deal about the fact that the website was online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which is great, because don't you just hate all those websites that obey internet opening hours? Oh, damn it! I wanted to do some online gambling, but it's after 5:30, everything's shut. All online casinos are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Most real casinos are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Maybe this is actually about marketing and targeting a particular demographic. We're going for the highly addicted customer. They care about the availability of highly addictive gambling sites. I must admit, I don't get gambling addiction. I understand, here's a load of money. Oh, thank you very much. Here's a load of unspecified drugs. Oh, unspecified drugs, my favourite. Now I'm addicted. That I get, I understand that. Here's a load of money. Oh, thank you very much. We'll put that there. Now I'm addicted. I don't get that. I'm not trying to suggest it doesn't exist. I'm just saying that I don't get it. It's like there's a stage missing. It's like you're getting addicted to just giving your money away. If my life is going to be taken over by addiction, you better believe I'm going to get addicted to taking something. Alcohol, drugs, Lemsip, Tixie Mix. I'm not getting addicted to just giving my money away. I don't know, Twiglets. Hey man, you got any Twiglets? Yeah, come on man, I really need some Twiglets. No, look, I've tried him. All he's got is scampi fries. Oh, come on man. I'm getting desperate. I've been going through bins looking for discarded Marmite jars. But I would still rather go through that than get addicted to just giving my money away. But hey, I'm not judging. So if there is anyone in tonight who is addicted to just giving their money away, I am quite happy to facilitate your addiction. No? Okay. I do actually have a very addictive personality. I'll cost you a fortune, I'll ruin your life. I did used to be very addicted to smoking. You could have tarred roads with the stuff I coughed up every morning. BP wanted to sink exploratory wells in my lungs. When I gave up, I made a little deal with myself that if I ever got a terminal disease, I could start smoking again. So now, every time I walk past a group of people smoking outside a pub, and I get a whiff of that gorgeous, amazing smoke, I think, I am longing for a terminal brain tumour. Come on, massive aggressive glioblastoma. Daddy wants a fucking cigarette. Now, that's addiction. if a nuclear bomb went off near me, I wouldn't be trying to decide whether to run towards the mushroom cloud and get a quick and painless death, or run away and try and survive in a post-apocalyptic nightmare. My first thought would be, where's the nearest tobacconist? 4-minute warning, you say? I reckon I can get 2 in, maybe 2.5. But humanity is doomed. Brilliant! Start smoking again. Cheers. Now, when I write material, I do actually write this stuff. Come out. When I write material, I do try to think of appropriate subjects to talk about, traditional, light, amusing topics to make warm, happy comedy about. So, clinical depression. I have got clinical depression. Don't worry, I've had it for years. I didn't pick up the mic, look at you lot and go, oh God, I'm depressed. Sometimes I'm fine. Sometimes I'm so far from fine I couldn't see fine with the Hubble Space Telescope. But over the last few years, I've found myself suffering from something new. Because ever since that Stephen Fry documentary on bipolar, I've developed mental illness envy. I'm deeply envious of people who've got bipolar. From the point of view of someone with clinical depression, bipolar sufferers seem to get it a lot easier. Oh yeah, they get the crushing lows, but they also get the highs of the manic stage as well. So in my messed up, depressed mind, on average, they must be fine. Now, I am aware that's like saying mountain goes up, mountain goes down, so on average, mountains are flat. But you see, all I get is pit of despair and then more pit of despair. So on average, I'm pretty much fucked, aren't I? When you're sitting down the bottom of the pit of despair, only getting the down part does seem really unfair. Please, sir, I want some manic. Ever since that documentary, it's almost become cool to say you're bipolar. Suddenly, men with big beards and interesting trousers are fighting over who was bipolar first. I had bipolar before that Stephen Fry documentary. According to my mother's gynaecologist, I was bipolar when I was in the womb. Oh yeah, well, my past life regression therapist told me that I had it when I was one of Cleopatra's eunuchs. Now, I am aware that being envious of someone else's mental illness is pathetic and small-minded. I don't have bipolar. How can I say they're fine? I've never experienced a manic stage. They could be horrible. I do feel incredibly ashamed and filled with self-hatred over this. But I've got clinical depression. So I pretty much always feel ashamed and filled with self-hatred. Oh well. I suppose this just goes to prove that sometimes I deserve to feel like that. This is just like when I was at school and my parents couldn't afford to buy me the expensive trainers that all the cool kids had. It's just my luck. I've got the mental health equivalent of Matalan trainers. Right, son. We've been to the mental illness shop, but I'm afraid we just couldn't afford bipolar, so we got you clinical depression instead. Oh, Dad! Clinical depression? But all the cool kids have got bipolar. Only the sad kids have clinical depression. Well, yes, son, that goes without saying. Now, I wasn't going to tell you this, but your mother and me have been saving to get you attention deficit hyperactivity disorder for Christmas. Oh, it's no good if it isn't bipolar. I'm going to my route to self-harm. That's it, son. Try and make the best of it. A lot of people seem to find it difficult to deal with the fact that someone's got a mental illness. In particular, knowing what to say seems to be a common problem. So I'm going to help you out with a few things not to say to someone with clinical depression. Firstly, don't say, don't worry, it'll go away, because that's like saying, don't worry, it'll come back to an amputee. And if you try, but with so much stuff in the world to feel happy about, why are you depressed? because I will counter that with all this lovely fresh air available for you to breathe, why are you asthmatic? Oh, and please don't tell me if you're scared of people with a mental illness. I'm scared of people with mental illnesses. I'm sorry, I'm scaring you? What are you scared of, a ricochet? You don't have to be scared of my mental illness. It's trying to kill me. It isn't trying to kill any of you. Conversely, here are a few things that you can say to someone with clinical depression. You could say, "You're really funny." Or you could try, "Would you like a gin and tonic?" That always goes down well. Or, "Here, have all my money." That's great. And if you want to practice, you can try those out on me later. In dealing with my depression, I have tried to think of the positive effects it's had on my life. In a recent scientific study, it was found that depression is intrinsically linked to intelligence. So while you're desperately trying to think of a reason not to kill yourself, you can at least console yourself with the thought that you're only in this mess because you're clever. Oh, that study also goes to prove that ignorance really is bliss.
Yeah.
Depression keeps you looking young. You can't get laughter lines if you never laugh, or smile, or show any discernible emotion at all. I'm ancient. My birth certificate was written on papyrus. Another good thing is that I have a very blasé attitude to Armageddon. I've never been that enamoured with this world. It's the end of the world. Well, it's not the end of the world, is it? When you have depression, even a mushroom cloud has a silver lining. Oh, and I get to smoke again. I'm always very understanding when girlfriends have dumped me. "Paul, I hate you. I wish you were dead." Oh, we've got so much in common. What else? Well, I suppose clinical depression could be seen as psychologically kicking yourself in the back of the head. So that does at least mean that, psychologically speaking, obviously, I must be double jointed. That's just me clutching at straws. It's not all good though. I don't want to paint too rosy a picture of clinical depression. It plays merry hell with my social life. I'm always having to cancel engagements, and explaining why I can't go out just doesn't seem to help. So, unfortunately, I can't come to the pub tonight. I thought I was free, but it turns out I've got to spend the evening being racked with guilt over something I did when I was 14. Sorry, I can't come camping this weekend. My brain has decided that I've got to spend this weekend planning my suicide. I've done this 30 or 40,000 times before, but apparently I've got to do it again. I'd love to come over for dinner. Unfortunately, my anxiety levels have gone through the roof, so instead, I'm going to spend the entire evening standing in front of my front door, unable to open the door and leave my flat. Oh, I get such strange looks when I decline dinner invitations. If I had to get something go clinical, I can think of better things than depression. Clinical apathy. Now that might work. No, I'm not coming in today. Yeah, clinical apathy is really playing up. Yeah, I'd love to come to work, but I medically can't be fucked. Sometimes, when I look at the state the world's in, all the evil, hatred and pain, I actually think that I'm not depressed. Am I reacting correctly to how the world actually is? Maybe the problem is that you're all clinically optimistic. And now I think I should probably get off the subject of depression before I get sectioned. I must say, this jacket you've given me is lovely. The huge buckles are great, but the sleeves are awfully long. Now, before I came up here, just as I was going out to get into the car to drive up here, I passed a man in the street. He was wearing tracksuit bottoms, sweatpants, yeah? And he had his hand down the front of his sweatpants, having a bit of a rummage.
It's obligatory with those kinds of things, basically.
Do you know why, though?
No.
Well, I'm just about to explain it, so you're going to find out. Now, every time I see that, as I'm sure you probably do, you think, oh, for God's sake, you're in public. Why are you playing with yourself? No, I don't want to shake your hand. Why are you doing that? Why do you think that's acceptable? Why? Well, I found out why. And it's not what you think. Genuinely, it isn't. It turns out that men who wear sweatpants and appear to play with themselves in public have a rare genetic condition where they have miniature Rubik's Cubes for testicles. And they just can't stop playing with them. The next time that you see one of these men, instead of judging them, follow them at a discreet distance, obviously. And after a few streets, you will see them go, yay, I completed one.
Really good.
Now, you might have noticed that I'm a metalhead. Yeah. I know, I don't really hide it that well, do I? Now, as a metalhead, I am obviously on first name terms with Satan. He's called Keith. Keith Satan. And he has recently got out of the evil game. Satan started moving out of the evil game a few hundred years ago when the major religions really started moving in on his territory. Things came to a head a few months ago when Satan went to see some management consultants to get advice on streamlining hell's business practices. What you really need to do is sack all your outdated demons and start using slaves. Workfare labour. How many demons do you currently employ? My evil subjects are infinite in scope and number. An infinite number of workfare drones. You might have to meet with Theresa May to get that many. At which point, Satan vomited and left the meeting. I think Satan feels that the world has passed him by. He recently applied for a job as an executive at Sports Direct and wasn't even evil enough to get to an interview. I think Keith feels that there's no real point in being the Prince of Darkness in a world that already contains the Daily Mail, investment banking and the Jeremy Kyle show. And now there's an evil mutant Oompa Loompa in the White House. The father of lies is feeling completely inadequate. So, Satan is currently managing a little chef on the A239 just outside of Bracknell. Which just goes to show that although Keith isn't involved in professional evil anymore, he is still keeping his hand in with a bit of amateur wickedness by tarnishing the souls of thousands of travellers with low-grade, greasy evil. Now, when I first wrote that bit, the person who made Satan vomit was Ian Duncan Smith. Then he resigned, and I was probably the only person in Britain to be pissed off about that. So I changed it to David Cameron. Then Cameron, the filthy pig boy, also resigned. So I had to rewrite it all over again. So now it's Theresa May who makes Satan lose his lunch, which, if anything, works even better than Ian Duncan Smith. And considering the effect that being featured in that piece of comedy has had on the careers of Ian Duncan Smith and David Cameron, I've got high hopes it's going to keep on working for Theresa May. It did very nearly work last year when she called a snap general election whilst having the warmth, charm and electability of a rotting sheep's carcass. In fact, my satire is so powerful, the only way she could beat it was to give £1 billion to a bunch of bigoted right-wing religious fundamentalist terrorists. And you might have noticed, but I've been doing it an awful lot over the last couple of weeks. Fucking that close. Now, I don't know how my comedy is causing evil right-wing politicians to resign. I don't know what the mechanism is. But, yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, now, as I just mentioned, I am a metalhead. It is a bit difficult to hide. Now, the aesthetic that goes along with heavy metal appears to some people to be quite aggressive. But all it actually signifies is that I love heavy metal. It doesn't mean anything about me as a person, other than I have really fucking great taste in music. So I think I get misjudged quite a lot. People think I'm much tougher than I actually am. For example, I'm actually quite a trusting, naive person. I treat most situations with a suspicion of an easily led newborn kitten. In fact, I think I've already proven my case simply by stating that to a room full of strangers. I only know a couple of people in this room tonight. For all I know, the rest of you could be conmen, thieves, liars, or people who work in the mainstream media. I mean, it's conceivable that Piers Morgan could have been in tonight, and that cunt's capable of anything. But despite the risk, I would much rather... It's all right, mate. Yes, I know. You're really fucking obvious. Oh yeah, being trusting and naive does have its downside. I hate it when my sat-nav screws up. I'm so trusting I'll just follow it anywhere. Hang on. This is the seventh circle of hell. But I wanted to go to Nuneaton. Oh well, it's pretty much the same thing anyway. It makes me look ridiculous in front of my friends. My nationwide campaign to have the word gullible put back in the dictionary just made me a laughing stock. Cost me a fortune and has had a very negative effect on how I feel about powerful people. I mean, if you can't trust the Nigerian royal family, cost me a lot in time as well. I spend hours every day answering the hundreds of emails that I get. Sorry, I'm not looking for a hookup. I'm in a great relationship, so I'm fine, thanks. It's okay, I don't have erectile dysfunction, so I won't be needing Viagra or Cialis, but thanks for the offer. I'll be sure to mention it to any of my friends who might be needing your services. Dear online pharmacy, it's okay, I live in the UK, and for the time being we still have a tiny bit of our health service left, so I think I'll be getting my prescriptions from my doctor in the traditional manner. But thanks so much for all the offers. I'm sure once the NHS has been completely sold off, I'll be beating a path to your door. I get so many emails, it takes me hours to answer them. But I feel that if these people have taken the time and effort to send me all of these messages, well, it would be very rude of me not to reply. My friends just tell me to delete them. But every time I think of those sweet, lovely, helpful email marketers sitting there waiting for my reply and not getting one, well, I just can't hurt them in that way. I seem to be pissing off my bank as well. Apparently I shouldn't give out my bank details to people pretending to work in finance. I should be more suspicious. But I can't help trusting them. I just can't imagine bankers being dishonest. Being trusting and naive does have its down points. A lot of people take advantage of me. I get disappointed a lot and it costs me a fortune. But even though it's damaged me and my life, I've made a conscious decision to stay trusting and to not allow myself to become cynical. Because there are things that only trust can get you. If you can't trust others, you miss out on so much. Trust is essential for a successful relationship. I honestly believe that my incredibly trusting nature is one of the main reasons why my girlfriend and I are celebrating our 24th anniversary this year. It's 24 years of love, happiness, and yes, trust. I must admit though, just for accuracy, you understand, I haven't actually seen her since 1997 when she popped out to get tea bags and still hasn't come back. It does worry me, but she always was really into tea, so it's not out of character for her to go to great lengths to get some really, really good tea. And what sort of boyfriend would I be if I stopped trusting her just because I haven't seen her for a while? I mean, who finishes it with their partner just because they're a little late coming home from the shops? One of my friends thinks he's found her on Facebook, but I keep on telling him, okay, maybe the person he's found does look exactly like her, even down to the small birthmark on her neck, but that's the wrong surname. And I think I would have remembered 2 kids. Even though I get laughed at a lot, I do still believe in our relationship. I trust that she still loves me because, after all, in a relationship, if you haven't got trust, what have you got? I know you think I'm an idiot. It's okay, everyone does. But I'm afraid I don't agree with you. I think I'm a really, really lucky man. I think I'm lucky because trust is intrinsically linked to hope. After all, isn't trusting someone just the hope that they'll act decently? My life is filled with hope. Some people have said that that's all that I've got, but it is a great thing to have so much hope. I hope I'll actually get to see the bright lights of Nuneaton. I hope Prince Nnamdi Azikiwe will return my fucking money. I hope I'll spend less than 8 hours a day answering emails. I hope one day I'll get to taste that elusive perfect tea that my girlfriend is trekking around the world to find. I bet it's even better than Yorkshire tea. I hope I'll be able to pay my rent this month, but thanks to Prince Nnamdi and someone pretending to be my bank manager, I fear my landlord may be disappointed. And I hope one day I'll have a stable, loving relationship and I'll have someone to talk to. That'd be lovely. I am surrounded by hope. I am the very personification of hope. And I hope I inspire hope in those around me. I'm sure there's a few people in the audience who hope I'll cheer the fuck up and we'll just do some fucking dick jokes. My mother hopes I'll get my hair cut and will stop cutting the arms off my t-shirts. Yeah, I think I'm going to disappoint her again. And I'm sure all decent, ethical human beings hope that Piers Morgan dies a slow, painful death. And hopefully he'll start dying a slow, painful death quite soon. Now, actually, it's a fucking great denim, that, but it's fucking hot. It is very hot tonight. Sorry about that. It's due to the tilt of the planet and our position in space. I don't have any control over that. I'm not very good as an air conditioning unit either. Now, I probably don't actually need to say this next couple of sentences, but it is how this next bit, because what you've already heard, you've probably worked it out already, but it is how this bit starts, and I'm quite lazy. So, I'm not actually the cool, confident, well-adjusted person that you thought was standing before you at the beginning of this set. Yeah, I know, it's a shock, isn't it? I am the ultimate case of not judging a book by its cover. Beneath this, admittedly, beautifully designed, sophisticated, successful-looking cover lies a small, dog-eared, badly written book of dense political theory that doesn't make much sense and probably shouldn't have been published. I've never really fitted in anywhere. Not like fitting a square peg into a round hole, more like fitting a herd of wildebeest into a round hole. As a comedian, it helps to have common ground with other people to aid understanding. But it's difficult to have shared experiences with people if you are a clinically depressed, introverted, dyslexic, deeply anxious, insomniac, evolutionary socialist, bullet-belted, metalhead stand-up comedian with chronic middle child syndrome and anarchistic tendencies. Writing jokes that behave themselves just isn't that easy. I'll give you an example. A man walks into a doctor's surgery and says, "Doctor, doctor, help me. I feel like I'm trapped in a traditional, cliched, repeating comic narrative." And the doctor says, "Hang on, weren't you in here last week with a steering wheel down your trousers? Yes. I told you it was driving me nuts. Well, exactly. You're clearly making up ridiculous false ailments to come in here and waste my time. Okay. Last week, I was taking the piss. But I only did that because the month before that, I came in here and told you I thought I was a pair of curtains. You laughed and told me to pull myself together, which I thought was an incredibly blasé attitude to quite serious mental illness. I think you will find that in these times of fake austerity, the Department of Health has found that the point and laugh method of treating mental illness is much more cost effective. Oh really? Oh bloody really? Well, the month before that I came in here and told you I had broken bones in 2 different places. You just told me not to go back to either of those places. There's clearly something going on. What are you up to? Oh, all right, I admit it. I have been trying to stop you coming to see me. Why on earth would you do that? I want to stop you coming here because, well, look, I just think you're much, much funnier when you walk into pubs. I want a second opinion. So the doctor goes off to get one of his colleagues from the practice. Once they return, the new doctor looks the patient up and down and says, no, I don't agree. I think he's funniest when he and a specific number of people with very similar traits as him attempt to change a light bulb. You see, it starts out normally, but then it wanders off on its own and goes somewhere really fucking weird. When I get an idea, there's usually a really obvious path to develop it, a path that runs straight and true in front of me. But then my unconscious goes, so it's this way then. Now that would be okay. Unfortunately, my conscious mind decides to join in the fun and goes, oh, fuck it, go on then. So I've come to the conclusion that I've got to give up on being normal and just accept weird. Yeah. So, it's taken me quite a long time, but I'm finally proud that I'm a really, really weird, clinically depressed, introverted, dyslexic, deeply anxious, insomniac, evolutionary socialist, bullet-belting, metalhead, stand-up comedian with chronic middle child syndrome and anarchistic tendencies. Which is a mouthful. But then, so's a Jaffa cake. So it can't be all bad now, can it? Oh. Recently, I've noticed that I've been talking to myself quite a lot. It keeps on happening. I've been starting to get quite worried about it. I was talking to myself the other day and we both agreed it was getting out of hand. And on top of that, sometimes I think I overthink things. Maybe I do. Maybe I don't. When I was at primary school, my teacher asked me what colour crayon I wanted. By the time I decided, I was doing my A-levels. Maybe overthinking things is a good thing. Oh shit, maybe it isn't a good thing. Someone once asked me to explain myself, so I wrote, edited and published 15 volumes of the life, times and inner workings of Paul Scoble, a practical guide for beginners. Maybe my life would be a lot worse if I didn't overthink things. Oh shit, maybe it would be better. Maybe it wouldn't be any different at all. Last night I spent 3 hours trying to work out what inquisitiveness might taste like. Maybe I'm not overthinking things, maybe I'm underacting. Do you ever get the impression that your brain isn't on your side? We don't know who your brain is working for, Mr. Scoble, but it definitely is not working for you. Your mind may be a double agent. Now, although I do occasionally use long words like defenestrate or Brobdingnagian or I don't know, marmalade? Yeah, fuck it, marmalade, that's long enough. That's really a form of camouflage. In many areas I'm actually quite ignorant. I don't understand why downloading's illegal. What's wrong with filling pillows with feathers? I don't understand peer pressure. Why are people letting Victorian seaside architecture tell them what to do? And I really don't understand businessmen who go on and on and on about networking when you never see them working on a fishing boat. Although, as you can probably tell, I am pretty stupid and ignorant, I do at least try. I am trying to do something to educate myself. I read a lot. Recently I've been reading a lot of philosophy. I don't understand all of it, and I definitely don't agree with all of it. In my opinion, Nietzsche was more full of shit than a Portaloo after a 3-day curry and real ale festival. And God save us from the ontological argument. But having said that, I do firmly believe that we can all learn from great thinkers and philosophers. For example, irritating ex-DJ Noel Edmonds got in trouble recently because he tweeted that he thought Britain was full. This was after getting stuck in a traffic jam during rush hour. Now, I think that Noel the beardy bigot could learn from the Indian political and religious leader Mohandas K. Gandhi. Now, Gandhi said that we should be the change that we want to see in the world. So, Noel, if you think the country's full, be the change that you want to see in the world and fuck off. If you think there's no more room, do the decent thing and make room. Can I just point out at this point that I don't think the country's full? I've been to Mid Wales, obviously. I've also been to Cornwall. This country clearly isn't full. Look, there's room for someone there. The philosopher Schopenhauer developed a system based on renunciation and ascetic practice. Schopenhauer believed that the only way to control the human will was through giving up all pleasures and reducing life to the barest minimal essentials. Schopenhauer was not the life and soul of the party. Not even a really small party. Schopenhauer would have considered amoeba's birthday party to be recklessly extravagant. Now, if a person who was prone to taking things to stupid extremes became convinced of Schopenhauer's system, they could be in danger of taking renunciation so far that it ended up with them starving themselves to death. So, I've sent copies of all of Schopenhauer's books to Donald Trump. But as he's still here, the tubby child-abusing fascist clearly hasn't read them. Unfortunately, philosophy is not a very effective method of assassination. Sorry. Apparently he's still working his way through C-Spot Run. Now, Descartes' great achievement, cognito ergo sum, I think therefore I am. It's been an important pillar of philosophy for nearly 400 years. Descartes discounted sense data and instead used the human intellect as a proof of human existence. The fact that there's a mind there to ask the question, do I exist, proves the existence of them. Unfortunately, this can now be seen as being false, as it has been proven that the cast of Made in Chelsea definitely do exist. It's a shame that such a sublime piece of philosophical reasoning has been overturned by the existence of a bunch of inbred, upper-class morons. But I think in cases like this, it's best to be philosophical about it. Now, I've always been interested, as you can probably tell, I've always been interested in the big, important questions in life. Questions like, is a metrosexual a man who gets excited if you give him a free paper? Or, is the gallbladder the part of the human body that stores cheekiness? I like to think it is. I'm sorry, I had to be rude to you there. My gallbladder was full and I had to release some pressure. Or, if an infinite number of American rednecks drive down an infinite number of back roads and fire an infinite number of shotguns at an infinite number of road signs, will they eventually write the entire works of Shakespeare in Braille? I think my interest in the big important questions is because I come from a very religious family. My parents made sure I had a very strict Christian upbringing, which, as you can probably tell, definitely had an effect. I tried to believe, I really did, but belief is one of those things that you can't really force. So I'm afraid I don't believe Jesus walked on water. I am willing to concede, however, that due to his nature as a non-Newtonian fluid, Jesus could have walked on custard. I think I'd have been more likely to believe in God if one of his miracles had been to turn the entire Lake of Galilee into custard. I think the world would be a much happier and more peaceful place if Jesus had created hundreds of thousands of tons of pudding. And for his next miracle, Jesus did turn Mount Sinai into apple crumble. And the people did feast on apple crumble and custard, crying, nom nom nom, O Lord. Now that's a God I could believe in, a warm, surreal, funny God. And that's one of my real problems with the Bible. There are no jokes. There's nowhere in the Bible where it says, and Jesus did say unto his disciples, verily, my brothers, an Israelite, a Canaanite, and a Samaritan walk into a barn. And if you look at the Old Testament, in the part where God speaks to Moses from the burning bush, he did not open with the words, knock, knock. So I ended up as an atheist who knows the Bible inside out. So I started thinking about all those crazy, wacky stories in the Bible, and I came up with a couple of theories about the origins of these myths. Jerusalem is a very important place for the three Abrahamic religions. Jerusalem's popularity as a site of religious experience may have caused some trouble over the years. Don't quote me on this, but I think it could have been responsible for a certain amount of tension. Now, religions and religious people view this as evidence that God exists. They think he really likes that particular geographical place, just that one little bit. Here's my theory. I reckon there's only one main spring in Jerusalem where most people get their water. And in and around that spring are growing, I don't know, mushrooms, or maybe truffles. So I think a lot of those crazy miracles could have happened something like this. Oh my God, look at that! Look at what? That! There! What? Where? What do you mean, where? There! It's Jesus ascending to heaven. Look! You can see the choirs of angels adoring him. That's a seagull. Are you thirsty? You know, now you come to mention it, I am quite parched, yes. Here, drink this. Oh, thank you very much. Lovely. Very refreshing. Oh my God, you're right. Jesus ascending to heaven. I can see the hosts of angels too. Wow, that's... Whoa, look over there. Look, no, forget about that. Over there, look. There's purple elephants playing leapfrog. Oh my God, what's happening to my legs? If lots of people in a small geographical area start seeing crazy things, the human reaction seems to be to look up to the heavens and to look for gods. I think we should be looking down because there's probably something in the water. Theory number 2. Abraham was a man who heard a voice in his head which he decided was God. The voice in Abraham's head told him to take his son to the top of a mountain and sacrifice him, and then at the very last minute told him to stop. Now that must have been a very tense walk back down the mountain. What the fuck was that all about? Tying me to that rock and sharpening those big knives. That was God's will. That was child abuse. I am a conduit of God's purpose. You're a bloody nutter. In biblical times, hearing voices in your head made you a prophet. These days, it makes you mentally ill. And it's interesting to note that in the Bible, prophecy runs in families. So, can all religious myths be down to hallucination or undiagnosed mental illness? Well, It would explain all the insanity and the contradictions and the inconsistency and the evil that you get in an awful lot of religious books. This book is full of madness. It was written by hallucinating mad people. Oh, that makes much more sense. Now, my upbringing taught me about all the parts of the Bible that Christians wish non-Christians didn't know about. Like the rude bits, because there are rude bits in the Bible. In the story of Aholibah, you'll find the verse, "There she lusted after her lovers, whose genitals were like those of donkeys, and whose emissions were as those of horses." That's Ezekiel chapter 23, verse 20, and I'm pretty certain they've not used that as a reading on songs of praise. Deuteronomy teaches us that men with crushed testicles, or whose privy member has been removed, will not enter the congregation of the Lord. So just remember, if you kick a man in the nuts, you're not just assaulting him. You could be stopping him from getting into heaven. Oh, that verse also makes me wonder about the shape of the lock on the gates of heaven. St. Peter, come here, mush. I cannot make this lock work. Come hither, my son. You have crushed testicles. Yes, I hurt them in an inexplicable sitting down accident. Oh, well, it's straight to hell for you. Don't look at me like that. It's not my fault. You should have read up on your crushed testicle laws. Yeah. Fuck, where was I? Crushed. Oh, yeah. My parents also taught me about morality. They gave me a very strict moral upbringing. And then they got me to read the Bible, which was definitely the wrong order to do things in. Violence, intolerance, sexism, hatred, homophobia, slavery. Oh, look, a verse about peace. Misogyny, violence, hatred, racism, slavery. Oh, look, there's a verse about helping the poor. Oh, it's crying because it's all scared and alone and surrounded by hate. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mum and Dad, but I refuse to believe in a God that I feel morally superior to. And as you might have noticed, I am fucking vile. Mind you, we can all feel morally superior to the God of the Old Testament. In 2 Kings chapter 2, he sends bears to kill 42 children, all because those kids called his prophet Elijah Baldy. Now, I don't know about you, but I think that's a little harsh. And there's also the story of Noah, where God, after being offended by a few human beings, kills every living thing on this planet. I don't know about you, but I think that shows signs of anger management issues. And we mustn't forget the mass murder of firstborn sons in Egypt. Wow, you know, God's really racking up the offences. In fact, the God of the Old Testament is one of the most unpleasant characters in all of literary fiction. And, if I'm being honest, it's not just the Old Testament. I do have an issue with the main gospel message of the New Testament, where you have to accept Jesus as your personal saviour, or you face the eternal fires of hell. But it's God that judges you. So what Jesus is actually saying is, let me into your life so that I can save you. What are you going to save me from, Jesus? I'm saving you from what I'm going to do to you if you don't let me into your life so I can save you. It's kind of a massive celestial protection racket. Very flammable looking, that soul, sir. The slightest slip and whoomp, eternal hellfire. What you need is a personal saviour. Now, religions quite often use guilt to control people. The Evangelical Baptist Church that we went to when I was a teenager could deliver 3 or 4 tons of guilt fresh every morning. At church camp every summer, we would have lessons in the morning that taught us to feel bad about our bodies. Our afternoons were spent learning to feel worse about our minds, particularly the parts that made us ask questions, because asking questions is the work of the devil. We would sleep in tents made of shame, eat Cinnaburgers for dinner, and we weren't allowed to leave until we had woven a cloak from our own self-loathing. Even as an atheist adult, I still have a big beard in the sky that I don't believe in, looking over my shoulder, telling me I'm bad. You're the worst person in the world. As a result of this, I wake up most mornings with a cry of, "It wasn't me!" It's also why I'm in two minds about most things. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. And now I've brought up guilt. I've realised that in the last nearly an hour, I have sworn and blasphemed. I've revelled in self-pity, anger and hatred. And on top of all that, I've compared a God believed in by hundreds of millions of people to a gangster. So, I would like to apologise for my terrible, disgusting behaviour. I'm Paul Scoble, and I'm very, very sorry. Good night.